Hi, I'm Dan from Real Mac Software and welcome to this week's Elements Developer Diary. Now, we've got an exciting week for you this week as we've got a new feature to demo. And it's not just any old new feature. We think it's kind of groundbreaking and it's really going to change things. So right now we have built-in elements, which if I go over here, you can see we have these built-in elements, and these are all written in the Elements language. It's a custom language we've built to enable us to use the WYSIWYG editor on these HTML items and display all these controls in here. So this is all part of the Elements language, and we've been building these and working with this. And now we're opening it up. So inside of Elements, you can create custom elements. And we think this is, once you get into this, this is kind of mind-blowing. So I want to go through this with you today and demo it all. So what I'm going to show you is creating elements within RapidWeaver Elements, and these are your custom elements, and you can take full advantage of the Elements language that we've developed. So we're going to get started. I've got this basic website as usual, and all the built-in elements are down the side here, but we've got this new heading that says custom, and we've got a little plus button here. And if I hit this plus button, we get a list. Now this list is going to grow over time and we need to refine it, but we've got some samples in here, and we've also got a basic HTML sample, which I'm going to start with for these demos that I'm going to do. So if I just select HTML, it's created us this new element. Now this is ours. This is a custom user element, which are just like these, but they're more accessible and easier to use. So I can take this and I can drop it in my page, just like a normal element. So you can see here it's rendered my HTML element, but you can't see the HTML. We need a way to edit the code behind this element. And rather than having to hop over to a code editor, find files, manage all that stuff, we've built it right in. So now there's a little button down here, and if I click that, it'll open up a fully fledged code editor. So you'll see this has syntax highlighting, it's got indentation, search, it's fully fledged, really good. So this is the HTML behind this element, and I can just edit this right here and it will live update. So as I type, so you see that? It just updates. It's live updating, which is very cool. Oops, and it would help if I could spell. There we are. Up. It would help if I could spell. There we are. So yeah, so that live updates, and this is the basics, and it's really handy for pasting in HTML snippets. So in this first example, I'm going to show you copying in a mailing list form snippet, something you might get from MailChimp. We use button down, so I'm going to use that. But it's not just HTML this can do. This can go further because we can access everything in RapidWeaver, so we can find out the site title, the page names, things like that, and we can generate UI elements down the side here. But we're going to start slow and work our way into it, and I'm going to show you how all that works. So I've got some code samples that I've set up because we don't want to go off and have to write these, etc. So we'll start here. Now this code I have here, this is in Nova, which is a code editor. So this is a separate app I've got here from Panic, and I've pasted my code into here just to make it easier to demo this, so this demo doesn't go on for a few hours. So I've got my form code, and this would be the exact same form code something like MailChimp would give you, but this is the button down form code I've slightly customized to have some Tailwind classes in it. So I'm going to copy this, and we don't need this HTML here because that was just a sample. Get rid of that, and I'm going to paste in this. And now we've got our little email form, and this is just using standard HTML with some classes from Tailwind, which is the CSS framework Elements uses. And I could stop here and just use it like this. That's great, that works, and that's my HTML element, and I can obviously just update it and it all updates on the fly, and that's good. But we can go further. let's give this a name. So we'll just call this my form, and you'll notice it's updated in the UI here, so we know what we're selecting, and it's over here, and it's also now in our custom element section area. And if I view in here in the Node browser, it has my form there. So I know where it is, and I can use this on other pages. So any changes we make will appear throughout the site. So before we get into things, let's go to another page, and if I drop my form on here, you can see it's just as we made it. And if I update this, so I'll put an exclamation mark there. When I go back to my other page, you can see it's updated the code, and it's the same on all the pages, which is very cool. Now, let's get into something a little bit more complex, because that's just an HTML snippet. And what I'm thinking is, rather than having these colors for the button, the primary button and the rollover button, rather than having them hard-coded in here, it would be nice if we had a color picker and it would be hooked up to our theme studio. So that way, if I add these, when I drag it into my site wherever, I can quickly customize it. So let's go ahead and do that. And one thing I haven't shown you yet is this little button over here. When I click this, it gives us access to the other files within an element. So if you're just doing HTML, then that's you just need to concentrate on this little template section here. But if you want to go a little bit further, like we're going to, then you're going to need to use some of these other files. Now, so the template is this file, and then we've got a styles file which you can add CSS to. We've got a hooks file, which this is quite advanced, but this will pass. You can write values in here, you can write JavaScript, and you can process values and pass them back to the editor. So this is really powerful, and we'll take a look at a simple example that uses this later. But for general users, you won't need to touch this. But if you're creating more complex elements and you want to take things up, then you can do stuff in here, and we'll have full documentation for all this. So don't worry about that. Then we've got our properties file, which is a JSON file. Again, JSON is a very popular language, and once you get used to the way JSON works, this is quite straightforward. But this properties file will allow us to generate controls here and then access them in our template. I know that's quite a lot to take in, but don't worry, it will all start to make sense, and especially if you've done a bit of development before this, you'll pick this up. So let's start by adding a heading in our properties file. And I've got some code here, and I'm going to paste that in my file here, and you'll notice up here we've got this little heading which is collapsible. Now let me just go back to one of our pre-made elements. So you can see here all these controls are available to us, and this is a heading, and you could a heading element, but you can see we've got all these options, and I can close these down and edit them. So we can create something like this if we want, but we're going to do a simpler example today. So let's go back to our properties. So I've got my heading there, and I could just call this button options. And as I type, you'll notice it updates the UI in RapidWeaver at the same time. Everything I do in here is live and updates automatically. It's absolutely wild. So we've got our heading, but I need a color picker. Luckily, I have some more code for that. So this is how we do a color picker, and I want to put it in this group. So I'm going to put it between these square brackets here, and we'll just paste that in. And you'll notice as soon as I paste it in, it appears in the UI. So this is such a great way to work for users and for developers building elements, because this thing happens just like that. So you know if you've made an error because it won't render, and you can make changes to it. So here we have our the color picker, and it has a title of normal, and it has a property, and this property name is how we will reference it in our template, and you'll see how that works in a second. We're giving it a format, which is how it's output, in how the color will be output in the element, and then there's some default values there. So let's go and get this let's let's go and get this updated in here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this value there, because we're going to need this property name, and I'm going to go back to our template file. And in the HTML, where we're specifying the color for the button, which is here, because here's our button and this is the class, we're going to put an element language tag in here, and that is double curly braces. So open and close double curly braces, and I'm going to put the property name in here, and you'll see the color of the button has come back because now it's using this property name in our property file here, and that is referencing this UI control. So now when I change this, I can pick any colors I want, and it updates that button color. So now, just like that, I've pasted in some HTML and I've created some UI to control it in Elements, so I don't have to mess around with this pesky code next time I want to use this form element. So it's pretty cool. So while we're here, we might as well do the hover color. So I go back to my properties file. Let's make this a little bit bigger, and I just need to copy that property again, which I think goes down to there, yes, which is here. So I just need to copy this again because we're going to duplicate this. We're going to paste it in. And now we've got two normal colors, which is not quite what we want, because this one is going to be hover. So as I type that, you'll notice it updated. And then the property button color normal, we actually want that to be button color hover. You can call these properties anything you like. It's for your reference, so you know what that object is called, and then you can reference it in the template file. And we could change the default here. So let's make that default 700. And that is when we drop in new elements to pages, it will pick those by default. So now we need to change the hover cover, and as I said before, that's double curly braces open and double curly braces close, and now we paste in the button color hover, and then we can pick any color we like from here. So now when I hover in, it goes purple. So it's really quick to build up these UI, and all the controls you see in something like this are available, and we'll have documentation on that, so you'll be able to build up these things however you like, you know. And that we could do lots of sections in here. I've got this is another little control. This is just a heading here. Let me just paste this in as we're doing this stuff. I'm going to put, because this is a heading, I'm going to do it at the top. So there we go. So you noticed the button color text came in there. So you could imagine if we were building this up, you know, these are the button options, and we could have another group for form options, and you could use these titles. I could put this down here, and then that says button color, and you know, button round. You know, and I could have some more controls there that would control the curves and things like that. So you can really build these up, and you can see this is exactly how we built our own elements here. And we're opening this up and giving everyone the power to do this. And it's just, there's so many uses for it. It's really, once you start getting into this and playing around, it's very addictive and lots of fun. So let's go on to the next example. So next I'm going to show you, we're going to copy in some pre-made layouts, some Tailwind layouts. So let's go to a different page. Oh, and we don't need our form anymore, but you'll notice we've got our controls here as well. So I can control, you know, it's up, we were working on that other page, but it's updated it here as well. So very cool stuff. But let's copy this. I've got these set up for the demo. There's a lot of places online where you can get Tailwind components from, like they're kind of pre-built, rather than you building them in Elements, which, you know, you can do, and that will be part of Elements. You can get these code blocks. We don't expect a lot of users to do this, but this is good to kind of show you how this works and how flexible it is. So this is just a site I found with a lot of sample layouts on it. So straight HTML, but they are specifically for Tailwind, which is the system we use. So if I click the show code button, we're going to copy that code, and I'm going to go back to RapidWeaver, and we're going to create another new element. So we're just going to do HTML again, and I'm going to drop that into my page, and it's the same as before, just a plain HTML element, and we'll call this one team because this is going to be the team, and I'll paste that code in there, and boom, it's rendered it. And because we're using Tailwind and that snippet is using Tailwind, it renders straight in the site. And now we can go into the code and edit this, which is great. So I could just change this to Team Real Mac, and you'll see it changing up here as I type. So Team Real Mac. But we've got these 4 things here, and I thought this is a good way to show you off some more controls. And we've got this image, but we don't. We want to customize this image, but it's a URL, and I would prefer to drop in some images because this is a lot nicer way to work. So let's get rid of that. And so that's updated, and we're gonna put our code in this area here in a minute. But first we need to create the UI for it. So I've got some handy code again. So let's take our group as we did before, and we'll paste that into the properties file. So it's appeared up here, you know, and we can call this styles, whatever. And there's an icon here, and these are taken from an app called SF Symbols, and that is built into the system. So you can use any of those codes, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. There's a lot to get through. But hopefully you're still following along. So this little bit of code here renders a image drop well in the RapidWeaver UI. So we're going to put it into this group like we did with the color wells, but this time we want an image well. And there we are. And as soon as I paste that in, it's appeared there. And the name of it, the property again, is called image. And I'm going to call this image 1 because this is for the first spot here. And you could imagine we could do multiple ones of these. See, there we are. And I could call this one image 2, and we could update the labels on here. You know, because this is a bio image 1, we call that 1, and then bio 2. So, and we could do this for all of those, but we won't. You don't need to see that because hopefully you're getting the gist. But we need to get this property, which will be the image URL, and we need to get that back into our template to update this image here. So we removed the HTML, and we need to put in the property. So we've got double open brackets, double close brackets, and then we'll paste that in. So that's image 1. And it's still not rendering as anything because we're missing our image there. So let's go to our resources, and I've got this, my avatar, and I just take it from here, can drop it in there, and boom. There it is. And we can do the same image 1. And we'll put image 2 in. Let's update this so we can update this guy here. We're looking for that. There we are. There's the image code. And I'll get rid of that. And we'll paste that in. But we don't want image 1. We want image 2. And there we are. So now image 2 needs an image. And let's drop me in there. So there we are. So I could go through and update all of those and have a different image for each one. So that's kind of cool. So rather than updating the HTML text in here, you kind of want the to be able to edit in the page, like when you drop in some of our elements. Let me just throw in this section here, and if I drop a heading in here, you can edit this text, and that's kind of cool. You know, we're not editing the HTML there or anything, and it would be nice to be able to do that in these elements. And of course we can. So let's look back at our HTML in our template file, and we need a little snippet in here to tell RapidWeaver that this text is editable. So let me scroll down. I've got my little snippet here for an editable text area. So this at symbol is telling elements that it's at text, which is editable. And then the properties in here is, we're saying it's a heading, but that is, Elements uses that as the custom name so it knows what it's referencing. And then we've got some default text there. So if I paste this here, it's now, our text up the top is now editable. So it says enter your text here because that was our default text. But now I can just click in here and we can change that to Team Real Mac. So this team element can be used on all my pages and can be used anywhere. And I can just go in here and edit the text. And we can do the same with the subtext. So, you could build up this little component, and if you're a web developer and you're building sites for clients, you could build up these little components for yourself, like time-saving components, custom things that you need to build or use a lot. And then for every site you build, you can just use these. It's really, really powerful. So we'll call this subheading, and now we can change the text in here. So there we go. So that is how you edit things on the page. So, and I can do that. I could do that everywhere. I could do this for all the text areas in here. We'll call that name 1. So now we've put this in here, we can just select this text and I can say Dan C. There we go. So I could go in and replace all my text in this little template, this little element, with these, and then it becomes totally customizable and have more controls over here. So you can already see we've built a form and we've built this, and it's a very, very flexible way to work. Oops. That'll be why. Sorry, I was wondering why my elements weren't there, but the search, that's because the search was on. Right, all right, so let's carry on and have look at one more example there. I've got, because I want to show you a couple more controls. So I'm going to copy another URL, and this is the official Tailwind site, and they've got some pre-built sections. So I've got a stats section here, and it's not too much HTML, but let's copy that. And let's drop in a section, and I'm going to create another HTML element, and we'll get that in the page. Let's make the page white. So I've got my HTML element, and we'll call this one stats. So we're already building up a nice little collection of reusable elements, and they're all there. So let's delete that and paste in our code that we found. And it would be nice to have a little slider to adjust this number. I think that would be kind of cool. So let's take our group properties again, and let's paste that in there. So we've got that going, and I'll call this one users, because that's going to be for this. And then we need, I need my slider, which handily, I've got the code, funnily enough, for it just there. So let's paste that in. And straight away, you'll see I've got a slider up here. Just created that slider. And I've got the 0, it's set to 0 to 100. So 0 to 100. So, we could make that slider from 1 to 200. And now that's updated. And remember, this is all updating live, everything we're doing here. So it's a really nice way to work. Let's change that back to 0 to 100. All right, so now we've got our slider. I want to replace this number here. And this is just called users. This property is called users. And let's go to our template. And then in here, we're going to do our double curly braces again, open and close, and then we'll paste in our user number, and there it's set to 4. So now we've got we can just change this, and that's kind of cool that we've just built this. It's a simple example, but it's really nice to have these controls. And there we are. And I've done that. So now we want to update this text. But instead of doing the in-page text editing, which you've already seen, I thought we could add a text box to here. And I've got the code example for that again. Now, all this stuff, I'm doing a lot of copy and pasting, but all these things will be available in the docs. So you can just, whichever control you want, you can look for that and then you can paste it in, especially if you're just getting familiar with this code, really handy. So I can just paste that in there. And now we've got a text box, users text, and you can update these. This is called untitled, and we can, there we are. So that's a little subtitle and you can see that going in there. And you don't have to have a subtitle. I could delete that and it would just be the text box. You know, app name. So because I'm going in here, I'm gonna, well, let's get this into here first. So we want to copy the property because I want any text entered into here, I want it to appear in the page. So where it says new users annually, I want the text here to appear in here. So I'm going to do open curly brackets, open, and then close curly brackets, the same as usual. So now we've got our variable here for this, and anything I type in here should appear in here. So there we go. So now I've got new elements users annually, and it just updates like that. We'll change this to weekly because I think when Elements launches, I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in using this. So, all right, so this is pretty cool. We've built up these different examples, and you can see how you can use. There are just endless uses for all these UI elements and merging these all together. So, really cool stuff. I want to do one more example, which is a little bit more involved, and we'll touch on the hooks file just so, especially if you're a developer, you can get a bit more of an idea how that works. So as we've done all the way through this demo, let's throw a container in there and I'll make it white. And we're going to create a new custom element. So another one. We really are building up a collection of these now. Oh, actually, let me put in, I'm going to put in a grid because it's a list and I know I didn't want it full width. We'll just work in there. So where was my element? There it is. I'm going to drop it into this grid item here. And this is going to be a list. So I'll call this list. And let's hop over to some code I have prepared earlier, of course. And I've got some HTML here, and we're going to copy that and we're going to put it in our template file. So that's now being rendered into the page, and you can see it's a nice little box with a hairline border. It's using a grey border. And it's rounded and it's got a shadow, and then we've got a title tag here and some some programming code there. That again, that's the Elements language. So nothing's displaying in here because we're going to need to go and put some things in our hooks file. So I've got this code that I'm going to hop over to my hooks file, and if you're not into JavaScript or looked at that, it might look a bit intimidating at first, this code, but it's fairly straightforward. What we're doing is we're setting some values, and at the top I've got a title value and I've got favorite fruit, and you'll see that's appeared at the top, or perhaps it should be favorite fruits. And then I've got another value here, but it's an array. So that's a number of values. And so I've got my fruit, and then I've got a title for each. So I've got peach, apple, banana, and that's in there. So if we go back, because I've pre-built this, it's obviously populating there. If I go back to the templates file, you can see we're using the title at the top, so favorite fruits, and then we're iterating through that array in our hooks file. So for each item in the fruit list, we want to display a list item and the title of it. So it's just looping through that and displaying that. So if I put a break in here, you see it's obviously creating breaks each time because we're looping over that and we're doing it again and again and again. If I go back to my hooks file, we can just change the name of this. So if as I start typing, you'll notice this is all happening live. Everything I do is live. So as I type in here, it changes up here like that instantly. Yeah, really nice to develop this way and just see those instant results. So that's quite cool. And there's one last thing that I wanted to show you here about accessing properties in your project. So there's let me make this smaller this way. We can list out the project, the pages in the project. So this bit of code here, instead of looking in the hooks file and saying each item in the fruit list, we actually want to get the pages in the project. So we're saying each list out each page in the project. So let's take this project.pages, or we could just type it. So project.pages, and you'll notice it's just updated it. So now these item titles, it's actually going into the RapidWeaver project and getting those the values from my pages here. So there is no end to ways you can use this. You know, you could build up your own sitemap. It's really, really powerful and flexible. And this is exactly the same stuff as we're using in our built-in elements, and it's now available for everyone to use. So let's just finish off this example. I've got, we're going to wrap a link around it, because at the moment this is just a list, and it would be nice if all these pages linked to the actual pages. So you can see we've got item.url, and that is going and asking RapidWeaver for the URL of that page and putting it in the HTML. So there we are, and we obviously need a closing A tag there, which I'll copy, and we'll put that on the end. So now we're looping through the pages and we're applying a URL to them. And as I scroll up and down, you can see I've got the hover on them, and that's quite easy to do. I'm just applying a few classes there, a few Tailwind classes again, and these are tied in. It's all tied in to the theme studio. So you can see they're purple, and I could move that and make them green. So all my primary colors are green now. So I hope that has given you a good overview of just some of the possibilities with this. It really is, I could spend hours and hours on demoing this and showing you all the features, because the Elements language is fully fleshed out. As you can see from, let me go back over to our homepage. As you can see from the elements that we build with, all of this is available to you to build in your own elements in here. So it's really powerful, and it's really fun and flexible way to work. And we think this is going to be absolutely huge for the RapidWeaver Elements community. So I think in coming weeks we'll do some more demos, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions around this, and I think you guys will have a lot of questions, but we will have documentation for you to reference and look up all the values you can use and all the properties from the projects, and what language, you know, what if statements we support, and the loops and things like that. So full documentation, so you can go through, have a look at those, and then you can build your own elements. And this can be anything from a simple HTML. You don't need to worry about anything else. So if you just need to put in a little form, like we showed in the first example, if you just need a little form, you can do that, and you don't need to worry about all this styles and properties, blah, blah, blah. So for normal users, it's as easy as pasting in some HTML. But if you want to go a little bit further and you're a little bit, I think I might want to do some of this, I've shown you how easy that is. And to just go that little bit further. So you can do that as well. And if you wanted to build components for client sites, like we have here, if you're building a lot of client sites, or for them to use, so you could build a project and ship it with some custom elements for them to build out further pages. You can do that. Or if you want to go all the way and build fully custom elements that you can ship and sell to the Rapid Weaver community or share with the Rapid Weaver community, you'll be able to do that as well. And from what I've shown you today, it does just touch the tip of the iceberg. There is so much you can do with this. You can include files, reference things. It's really, really powerful stuff. And it's exactly, you have access to everything that we are using in our own elements. So I really hope you are kind of getting a feeling for how powerful this is going to be. And once you start thinking about, oh, what elements could I create and what reusable bits would I want to use, you realize that having it all in here and it updating on the fly straight away in a WYSIWYG environment is absolutely powerful. And we really think this is going to be game changing for desktop web design apps on the Mac, specifically for Rapid Weaver, because we built this in and it all just works. And yeah, I hope you can tell we're really excited about this. And this is just one of the groundbreaking features of the two and the many more that we've already demoed that that I wanted to show you. So yeah, so we've got something else big we're working on. I've talked about that before. That's called layouts. And you've seen it in the videos before a little bit if you've been paying attention. And we've been working on that for a long time. And so we'll demo that layouts in the coming weeks, I think. Yeah, so that's all for today. Very long one, but it was a lot to cover. And there's a lot more to cover about this. But this should hopefully be a good introduction to get your mind working and thinking, wow, what could I build with this? And yeah, so let us know what you think. Post some questions down below. Let us know if you have any questions about the language, etc. You know, can you build this? Can you build that? Post away, let us know, and we'll do our best to answer all those questions. And I will be back next week with another Rapid Weaver Elements video. All right, thanks for watching as always. Have a good week. Cheers, bye.